All right, so today I wanted to do a little showcase and demo of this new little fixture from SmallRig, the RC60B. That's the only light I'm using right now for this talking head setup.
Like your TV show, what is it called?
Dark Times. Now, I already did kind of like a first impressions, went over all the specs of this during a YouTube short / Instagram reel. So if you missed that, I will put a link to that down in the description below. I just wanted to show what this light is actually capable of. First of all, let's start with camera specs. Obviously, the Sony FX30 is doing the kind of BTS of this, but the real shot here is the red Komodo. It's rated at ISO 500, so I think that's important to take note of when we start talking about the output of this light. For glass, I have the Leica R Summicron. It is ripped wide open, and I do have a radiant soft filter that's made by Schneider Krosnia, and it's a density 1, so it's a pretty heavy filter. Moving on to the light itself, this little tiny light right now is only at 55% brightness, and that's in eco mode. So the eco mode is kind of cool. It gives you an extended battery time, up to 75 minutes longer, and it also decreases the fan level by 23 decibels. So now that fixture is virtually noiseless. The fan is pretty silent anyways because it's such a small fixture. And when it's at that eco mode, you're only getting 60% of what the light is actually capable of. So I've created a book light with this white beadboard and an 8x8 silent half grid cloth. So it's getting bounced and then pushed through the grid cloth, which a silent half grid usually cuts around 2 to 2.5 stops of light loss. And then I'm double breaking it with this 24x36 silk. So we're losing a ton of light, and it's in eco mode at only 55%. I should talk about the one trick of this setup. What's lighting the background is actually one sliver of the window here is open, like you can see on the FX30 here. It's not like there's light pumping through here. This is really dimly lit. We are in the shade. This is always in the shade back here. We never get direct sunlight back here, but that is a little bit of a trick helping me kind of illuminate the background. That's not really making this look super lit. But again, it's because we're going so super soft, bounced light, double broken, super soft. The little kicker here is also not a source. As you can see, it's very close to me, silver beadboard. It's still a really nice little bit of a natural edge. You can achieve a lot with just one tiny, inexpensive light. This light is on par with the Nanlite Forza 60B Mark I. The Forza 60B at full brightness at 3 meters gives me 100 foot candles, where this SmallRig RC60B, when it's on full brightness, not in eco mode, full brightness 100% at 3 meters, it gave me 99 foot candles. So it's right on par with that Forza 60B and about half the size. This thing is extremely tiny with that wide CCT range of 2700 to 6500 Kelvin with lots of built-in special effects presets. It's a pretty impressive light. Again, that specs video is down below. I do want to go over the photometrics. I take all of my readings at a 3 meter distance because for me, that's just more realistic to how I shoot and in my workflow and what my experience is as a cinematographer and a gaffer here in LA. But also I do want to point out that my Sekonic 800, it is a very recent version because my other one was dropped on set, so I did get it replaced via insurance. So it is the most recent calibration with the most updated firmware. You can see when the light is set to 5600 Kelvin, we're actually getting 5458, so that's pretty good, all things considered. However, it is pushing a little green on the delta UV curve. Now again, these readings are taken from 3 meters exactly. The luminance is 99.1 foot candles or 1070 lux. It is pushing a tad green, but not enough to where we would need to put any sort of certain tint into our camera settings. So it's still pretty good rendering overall. Here is where it gets pretty impressive with the TM30 charts. The gamut reading is a 101 and the RF is a 97. So those are really excellent scores overall. The outline graph in the foreground is what a quote-unquote industry standard fixture would do, and then the actual SSI graph in the background is what our SmallRig light is doing. But overall, it's not bad. If you notice, we're not missing colors anywhere. We have colors throughout the entire spectrum. So now I want us to look at the CRI. You guys know I don't care about overall CRI ratings, but if you do, it is decent, right? It's 98.2. That's damn near perfect. All I care about is the skin tone renderings. And if you follow my channel, you know the skin tone renderings are R9, R13, and R15. And those are all really excellent. However, I want us to take note of that R12 channel. It's barely hitting 90. This number at the top, the overall rating, 98.2, it doesn't include channels R9 through R15. They're not included in the overall CRI reading. That's why I don't care about the overall. I just pay attention to R9 through R15 because why this is so important is because R9 through R15 are most identifiable as real world colors that our eyes can perceive. So these CRI ratings are kind of like a cheat for manufacturers. So for R12 to be hurting like that, that's kind of a big deal because those are the channels that matter for real world rendering, certainly in terms of digital rendering with sensors. Now I did compare it to see, is there a difference when it's in eco mode? You'll notice that it's a little bit more accurate. So now the actual reading is 5498. It's not pushing as much green. However, you'll notice that the foot candles did drop quite significantly, right? So we went from 99 foot candles down to 61.9. But again, that's because it's cutting 40% of the output. Notice our overall CRI rating did drop a tiny bit as well. That R12 channel did drop even more. So now that's getting less desaturated. You'll notice our R9 channel dropped a little bit. It is affecting the overall color rendering, but it's not bad. It's pretty similar, and we're still getting that really oversaturated blue channel, but that's to be expected with LEDs. We still have colors in every part of the spectrum. These channels have now become a little desaturated. I'm talking about 4, 5, and 6. We still have desaturation in 7 and 8, and we're still pushing the oversaturated in 15. So now the RF dropped to 96, but still those are really good TM30 readings overall. Okay, so now let's see what happens when I took the hyper reflector dish off. I'm always talking about how these companies are cheating with these hyper reflector dishes, and you'll see the real output of this light from 3 meters on full 100% brightness, not in eco mode, without the hyper reflector, it's only giving us 30.7 foot candles. We're actually getting 5435 when it's set to 5600. We're not getting as much of a green push. These all look still pretty good, but that R12 channel is still hurting. This is almost identical to when it's in eco mode. When I look at these SSI comparisons, I'm just really looking to see where the light is kind of clipping out at. This is still consistent with this particular light when it's set to 5600, really pushing this blue channel here. We're not losing any colors anywhere. I mean, this channel over here is pretty low, but that, again, that's consistent with pretty much all LED lights right now in our current day and age. Yeah, you'll notice this is pretty on par when it was in eco mode. Let's jump to the other end of the spectrum and see what it does at 2700 Kelvin. This is where most LED lights hurt. It's pretty good in these warm areas, but down here you'll notice that we are missing some colors down here. But overall, that's pretty damn good performance, certainly with a light that is this cheap. When it was set to 2700, it was actually giving us 2709, so it's really damn accurate. That's pretty abnormal, honestly, for all of the LED lights that I test here. A lot of them really can't replicate tungsten light, so this is quite impressive. However, I want us to take note that it is pushing quite a bit green on the delta UV curve there, to the point where you would want to add magenta into your camera tint settings, and quite a bit, honestly, if you look here at the camera filters. However, if you wanted to fix it on the light, you would have to put a 1/8 minus green. So it's kind of like this push and pull. You're adding magenta in camera, and you're taking green away from the light. That's the lowest amount of output. When you're set to 2700 Kelvin, you're only going to get 78.7 foot candles at that 3 meter distance. And now here it's really hurting. Look at that R9 channel. That is really, really low at 73.3. The R12 channel is pretty consistently low across all color temperatures we're noticing, whether it's in eco mode without the hyper reflector. R15 channel dropped too, and that is also a skin tone channel. So I don't usually like to use LED lights below 3200 because of what we're looking at right here. It's not great on skin tones versus what real candlelight will give you, or a real tungsten fixture or something like that. And here you'll see it's heavily, heavily desaturated. So now our RF reading has dropped significantly low, 93. The RG is the saturation. That's why it dropped all the way down to 94. And you can see all of this right here is desaturation from like all of it. Pretty much all of it, starting at channel 12 down here, all the way around. Almost all of these colors are now heavily, heavily desaturated. And that's probably why it's affecting the skin tone so bad. Okay, let's jump out and see if it improves when we bump it up to 3200 Kelvin. Now it's pushing this blue spike out, and we're still kind of losing colors on this bottom end. Again, it's staying pretty consistent. Look at the reading, actually giving us 3194. This is really good, accurate reading. Here it's barely pushing any green at all on the delta UV curve. Now, one thing that we skimmed over is look at the luminance now. It does drop in luminance. So this is at full 100% brightness, not in eco mode, and it dropped to 80.8 foot candles. So we lost almost 20 foot candles just by jumping from 5600 to 3200 Kelvin. So that's something to take note of. You're going to lose quite a bit of output just by dropping on the lower end of the color spectrum. Let's see how it's affecting our skin tones when it's set to 3200. R9 is still hurting, but at least it's getting back up there. It's not as bad at 2700. Notice our R12 channel has improved now. This is the best reading we've gotten on the R12 channel on any color temperature so far, which is really crazy. But notice our other skin tone channels are nice. R13 looks good, R15 looks good. So I think you would be pretty safe here at 3200. It's still a little desaturated, but look, RG100, Now, some people would say, if this was a scientist channel, they would say that it's perfect saturation. Here it's getting a little better, right? But this blue spike is consistently getting worse as we get colder on the lamp. Let's see if we were able to get a little bit more luminance out of it when we are getting colder. Yeah, it did. It's getting a little bit more. So now we jumped like, what, 7 or 8 foot candles more brightness. So you'll notice you're losing quite a bit of output when you're going those warmer color temperatures. The actual reading is 4231 when it was set to 4300 Kelvin. But now notice that we're pushing magenta on the delta UV curve to where we would want to add a quarter green filter onto the lens. And here you can see our R12 channel is still low, but now our other channel has improved. R9 has significantly improved. R13 and R15 have dropped a tad compared to 56, but that's pretty good skin tone renderings overall. 101 is really good and an overall score of 96. And let's jump to 6500 Kelvin. We're still not quite getting as many foot candles as we did when it was set to 5600 Kelvin. So that's important to take note. If you want the maximum amount of output that this little tiny light is capable of, keep it set to 5600 Kelvin. When the light is set to 6500, we're actually getting 63. It's pushing a little bit green on the delta UV curve. You'll notice that it is suggesting we add a tad magenta in our camera tint, and maybe if you really wanted to make it really accurate, you'd want to put a quarter minus green gel on the lamp, because it is important to take note of this little light. You're not able to dial in tint control on the fixture. The overall reading's not bad. That's a pretty good reading. I want to see how it's affecting our skin tones. R9 is hurting a little bit here compared to the others. However, I would say R13 and R15 improved compared to the others, but that R12 channel is consistently hurting. But overall, not a bad light, certainly for the price. A lot of people are talking about how impressive it is that it has this built-in battery. For someone like me, I find it a huge annoyance, almost like a disservice, right? Because the battery life isn't great on the lamp, okay? It's just not. Even in that eco mode, when we're set to 55% brightness in this setting right here, when I first was setting this up, the OLED was telling me I had 1.2 battery left, and now it's already dropped to like 0.6 by the time we started rolling. And that's in eco mode. And my biggest issue with this lamp is that you have to power it via the USB-C. So if you're on set, it's weird. They give you this little clamp for, I guess, their little nano V-mount batteries, but you can also use it with like portable cell phone chargers. But again, those chargers have to be a certain amount because the lamp requires a certain amount of wattage. It is a 60-watt light, right? So it's very convoluted. And for a company that makes their own nano V-mount batteries, I don't understand why the lamp itself just doesn't have a V-mount clip on the back. You know, like, why didn't we integrate that? But they expect us to like put this little clamp on the back, which in my opinion is gonna get knocked off quite easily, right? And also, like, not only do you gotta attach the clamp, but then you gotta attach a cable, and the USB-C cable, you can't go USB-C to USB because it draws very low amounts of power. You have to go USB-C to USB-C, right? Because that's drawing more power. Not a lot of newer V-mount batteries have USB-C. Most V-mount batteries only have USB-A, right? So this is a big problem for me. I find it hugely annoying. Again, for a company that makes their own nano V-mounts, why did the light, now I understand, maybe it would have boosted the price, you know, more electronics, more things had to be involved, maybe it would have increased the size of the light, I don't know. But for me, that's the biggest con regarding that light. I am not a fan that we have this internal battery that can only be powered via USB-C. It annoys me, and to me, I don't find it convenient. The other issue I have with it is the little mini Bowens mount that it has. It's not compatible with anything. The cool thing about the Nanlite Forza 60B is that it came with the adapter. So even though that light has a mini Bowens mount, which by the way, is not the same size as the SmallRig mini Bowens mount. So this is all proprietary, right? I'm not a big fan of all these companies that live in this proprietary world. When you're talking about lighting instruments for filmmakers, we need things to be consistent. Otherwise, in my opinion, you're creating roadblocks and you're creating segregations. And in my opinion, that's not the way to go for low budget filmmakers. It's just not. I don't want to be trapped into a SmallRig system. Again, they're a company that aren't known for lights. So this is new territory for them. I have lots of reasons why I don't want to be trapped into one system, right? To me, it was a good call on Nanlite's part to include that adapter. We can use any Bowens mount accessory on that little Nanlite Forza 60B. I don't understand why SmallRig didn't go that same route. And keeping in mind this weird battery system they have going on with it, I feel like they shot themselves in the foot a little bit. Like, I really wonder who is actually on the marketing team over there at SmallRig that thought any of this was a good idea. Again, you guys know I'm really harsh with my reviews, but that's what I do. That's dog times, baby. I'm not trying to throw SmallRig on the bus. I'm not purposely throwing shade. Like, I'm not purposely out here to destroy companies. That's not my MO. but I am out here to give my honest take on things and to be genuine. And I think we're missing that in our YouTube camera world, quite honestly. But again, I have a large acting background, so I guess I'm used to having spears thrown at me. But either way, that's my take on the light. What's my final summation here? I think it's a great light. Look at what it's capable of. Look at it in our day and age, it is capable of quite a lot. The little discrepancies with the battery issues and the proprietary Bowens mount, despite all of that, I think it's an excellent little light, and the fact that it's so tiny, you can take it anywhere. Ever since I got it, I've been taking it with me everywhere. So I do have to at least give props to SmallRig for sending it out to me, wanting my honest opinions on it. And I definitely got to give a shout out to this week's sponsor, and that is the Dog Times Patreon. That is my virtual clubhouse for indie filmmakers. You all know about it now. It's open up for free now, so I started doing blogs over there. Those are available for free to the public, so you can sign up just to get my monthly blogs if you're interested in that, if you like to read, get some little insight into my crazy mind. Also, if you want access to my behind the scenes jobs I do in LA, those videos are available over there, and a huge backlog. I mean, I have nearly 300 videos over there, so there's tons of content. Patreon.com/JustinPhillip. Thank you for watching. Guys, help me out. Hit the subscribe button, hit the share button if this helped you out. Let it be known in the comments. Hit the like button. All of that helps little tiny channels like mine, because as you all know, no one's paying me to do this shit. Okay, thank you all for the support, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I ain't in all that fake shit. I'm just trying to stay real.
So let's do it again, and just like this time, like you're at a party and everything's crazy.
What does that say? 0.36. So she dropped half during that 35-minute talking head. But now, if you weren't in eco mode, it would have been gone, baby, gone.